Everybody hates Venom. He's a loser. Even though I touched on the prior subject of Eddie Brock being a loser, it really stuck out in my mind, the idea that Venom would proclaim himself to be a loser on his planet. And the reason why I find that so perplexing is how? What are the criterias? You're dealing with a species of alien that does not have the same criteria to being a loser, or do they? That was never explained. It's just completely perplexing. Oh, you're a loser and I'm a loser. It's like you're an alien symbiote and you're here as the vanguard of an invasion force. So obviously you made some kind of cut, or were you just basically thrown on the front lines? Once again, that's contradictory, because if you're in the vanguard, you're part of the elite, or you're at least part of the scout company, like I guess like Space Marines. Space Marines have a scout company, but still, you've passed all of the different channels within the lore of Warhammer 40k. Not to go too far down the rabbit hole, you've made the cut. You're on your way. You're more than on your way. You had to survive and get through a lot of different tests. So it would be the same with any army. If you're part of the vanguard, you've made the cut. I know that I keep saying that's a little redundant, but once again I have to sort of state this, and this is something that really broke immersion. Him looking down on Brock and going, "You're a loser, Eddie." It's like, what? I would have done a double take. I'm like, wait, so like how, who, what, where, and why? Okay, so moving on. Red Rover, Venom takes over. For me, this was an intensely clear departure of all of the lore that I came to know, which inevitably made the movie a little bit confusing for me. Confusing on the level of, I thought I was going into the theater expecting the lore to work this way and to have sort of a continuity. I guess what I'm saying is I was relying on the continuity that I already knew about the comic books and even my favorite, which was the Fox cartoons, and I really didn't get that with this aspect of the film. The secondary problem that this poses with any kind of discord is that you're going to have someone who's going to come in, they're going to see the movie, they're going to come to understand the movie's lore and perspective of how they set up the character, and that is inevitably going to cause a conflict where people are like, no, it wasn't like this, no, it wasn't like that, leading to the inane and irritating rebuttal of, well, it's not like the comic books, well, it's not a perfect adaptation, believing that exempts the movie and them from any sort of analysis. Another thing that this new lore eliminates is the duality. It's very clear that he is a hero. He is a good guy because he doesn't want to do bad things. The symbiote, or all of the symbiotes in many ways, worked primarily off of your, I guess I want to say, penchant, whatever you had a leaning towards, and it would try to influence you on that basis to get you to do different things. Now, for me, this is just a postulation, but I'd always figured that it liked the chemicals that were released during certain states, that is, battle, carnage, or hurting people, beating people up, just doing anything on a superhero level, but primarily just combat. I really believe that the symbiote would feed off of those nice little brain chemicals and the adrenaline and the endorphins and that kind of stuff. And that would have been really nice to see in the film, to show that the symbiote was dependent on that to some degree. Like maybe humans were a little bit different from just absorbing any other creature, and it's like, wow, this is a new thing. I like this, but we always got the sense that the symbiotes were kind of evil because they influenced you heavily, especially in one comic called The Bride of Venom, where it gloms onto to Eddie Brock's girlfriend. And that was actually wink, wink, nudge, nudged at the film where his girlfriend comes to save him. And we saw, but we saw a takeover. So it was really more of Venom combating the SWAT people in this one particular scene, but not really Eddie fighting. He just said, okay, when he said masks and the symbiote engulfed him, it was the symbiote fighting. Clear, pure, and simple. It wasn't anything else, and that really bothered me because that's not how the symbiote operated. Now, with that being said, it really works for the film. It makes a lot of sense with this newly crafted lore. Since they are an invading force and they would take over whatever perspective creature they would glom onto yes, a complete system takeover makes 100% sense. And that was actually, now that I think about it, even the case with a lot of the different symbiotes in the first place. But it was very slow. It was very methodical. It released endorphins. It got you addicted to wearing it. And that was, the one scene in the Fox cartoon I remember that was just like so riveting for me, where Dr. Kurt Connors is trying to tell him, like, you got to get that off you. You have to, we have to get it off of you. And he's like, I need it. And he's like running out of the room. And I was just like, that is riveting. He's a total junkie for this suit. But we didn't have that in the film. That was really disappointing. Number 5, It's a Riot. So, if you've seen the previews, that's all you really need to know. I'm actually showing some footage of it real quick. Anyway, the Riot symbiote attaches itself to an EMT worker. After attacking the EMT vehicle's driver, the EMT flips over, it busts out, it walks aimlessly down the road for I don't know, an indeterminate amount of distance, and then it comes to some type of like backwoods kind of eatery, and I think it was in Vietnam. Anyway, she starts grabbing a lobster, starts eating it. Someone tries to stop her. She makes a bladed weapon, cuts the dude's throat, shoots spikes everywhere, kills everybody except for this Vietnamese woman, old Vietnamese woman. They give us a few shots of like San Francisco and Eddie Brock and then, all that good stuff to try to get us to forget about the old Vietnamese woman. By the time the story revisits back onto Riot being controlled by, or Vietnamese woman being controlled by Riot, she walks into an airport. When she walks into an airport, she's going. There's this little blonde girl that goes into the bathroom with her mom. It ominously stops and sort of turns, but not really looks at the camera. I mean, maybe that's just the way I'm remembering it, but I was just like, okay, we saw that scene. Not everybody went to the bathroom at once. We know that it's Riot. And if that wasn't laughable enough, when they finally come back to revisit, where's Riot now? Like Carmen Sandiego, we see the little girl. The camera is obviously fixed on the little girl, so we know from the scene prior that yes, Riot has now body snatched the little girl. But so the mom comes out of the airport, the little girl appears to be following, stops, turns, and then starts walking, I want to say the opposite direction down the street, and then the eyes flash. And I was like, what was necessary about the eye flash? We know this. Wow, do you think we're completely just stupid? But then again, I did go to see this film. That's just a bit of facetiousness on my part. I did enjoy the film overall, like I said, but it's just these things were just like, wow. I'd go to see this if somebody told me that all of these things, and I would go to look for them. So there you go. Or in this case, leave all evidence. As I mentioned before, the body-snatched EMT worker goes into this backwoods eatery. And as I said, when Riot seemed to be looking to replenish the host body's health, it sees a lobster, starts chowing down, and then someone tries to stop, a man tries to stop her, and then Riot produces a bladed spike from his own symbiote body and then slashes the guy's neck, and then proceeds, as I said before, but I'm stating this just for brevity, shoots out spikes and kills everybody. And there was no investigation. There wasn't even a blip on it. No one came up to Eddie Brock threw something weird on his desk and say, hey, we want you to sleuth this. This is something that the Vietnamese government really can't figure out, and there's actually kind of a massive cover-up, and a bunch of the people from the what's that foundation? The Life Foundation are actively covering it up. That I would have liked to see that type of in-universe, just sort of basic continuity, kind of basic story writing. But I'm sorry, I'm rambling. But my point is that shooting out all those spikes and then later on killing, murdering a room full of people, which was I don't know what it's called. I want to call it a Houston room, only because it activates the memory of like the shuttlecraft's control center. Anyway, those people get murdered by Riot, and there isn't even a blip or a story about that happening and talking about the missing persons or the death. Someone's gonna walk in the next day for their work shift, and they're gonna know that either the guards or the security is gonna say that the police are there and they've cordoned everything off. There is going to be talk, and especially since the inception of that whole Riot ultra killing spree was with I want to say with the the spikes shooting out everywhere, they would have recovered those spikes. Even the guy from the Life Foundation, the head guy, Drake, would have said, I want every piece of that symbiote recovered. You know, we first of all, we can't leave a trace, and number two, it's part of that symbiote. I need to analyze it. You know, I could just see a scene where someone says, you know, showing pictures about like okay, we're hot on the trail of this other symbiote, this rogue symbiote, and oh, okay, so this is amazing. Oh, it actually is. It's able to weaponize its own body. Okay, we need to erase all traces, but give me every little bit of that. Go into the government, you know, call it property. All of those things would have been in place, and it would have been really easy just to show those scenes. And maybe it was even a scene that was cut, but I highly doubt it because the writing was not that intelligent in this film. But with that being said, I think I'm going to end the video here. Thanks for everybody who's been so desperately waiting on bated breath to see this and to see my analysis. And I thank you for anybody who just gave it a simple glance. So yeah, all right. Like, comment, share, and subscribe as always, and wait for the next one. I've been Funny MGTOW, aka Epiphanies, and I'll see you guys later.
Do it! Do it! Do it!